Greetings, my name is Sasha and welcome to my project on the book I've been reading throughout the last semester of school. So, what book have I been reading? I have been reading The Essex Serpent, a British novel by Sarah Perry. The novel is a Gothic Victorian era historical one set in 1893. While reading it, I felt mostly intrigued by the mystery of the Essex Serpent itself, but I was also very immersed in the story and the characters, especially relating to the main character of the story, Cora. Also feeling dread when things like the hysteria in the school class, the scene where Cora reflects on her life with her horrible husband when they find Stella dying under the boat, etc., happen. This book makes you feel a lot of emotions, which is one of the things that makes you not want to stop turning one page after another. Since there are more than 5 main characters, I think they can be considered main characters, I'm only going to talk about the 2 highlights of the book, Cora Seaborn and Reverend William Ransom. Starting off with William Ransom. William Ransom is a local vicar of the village Old Winter. He is heavily devoted to his religion as expected and thus disagrees with most science. However, he still looks into science throughout the book. He is also a very devoted and loving husband and father, and he later becomes very good friends with Cora despite their differences. This character is actually the one who introduced me to the book, as I found out that my favourite actor, Tom Hiddleston, would be playing him in a series adaptation of the novel. And I have to admit, I wasn't really excited when I searched on Google and found out who the character actually is, as I have some, let's just say, very strong views on religion and especially Christianity. But I decided to give the book and character a shot anyways, since I'm really interested by books that have a sort of science versus religion dynamic, such as the book Angels and Demons by Dan Brown. And guess what? I ended up really liking the character. He wasn't the stuck-up, God-obsessed idiot that I expected him to be. I love his relationship with his family and Cora, and I loved most of the struggles he goes through. And although I did disagree with some of his actions at times, he is a solid, great character. Now onto the absolute star of this book and my favourite character. Cora is a woman with a passion for a natural science, who, upon losing her abusive husband due to cancer at the very start of the book, becomes a widow and feels relieved to be so, as she is now free and thus escapes to the Essex countryside along with her son Francis and his nanny, who is also her best friend, Martha. Since she was little, Cora wasn't your average Victorian ideal woman. She loved science and would frequently get covered in mud searching for fossils, and she never really cared for her appearance or femininity. But then she was married off at a fairly young age to a wealthy man, Michael Seaborn, who used and abused her and forced her to fit into societal norms. Here's a moment from the book that perfectly conveys this. I could really relate to Cora. Not in the way that I've been abused by an abusive husband and forced to become the perfect housewife, of course, but in the way that she's not the stereotypical feminine woman, so I could easily identify with her, especially when people force her to become something she isn't. Okay, now for the minor and side characters. I honestly feel like there were too many, and sometimes they kind of took away the main focus of the story. Don't get me wrong, world building and side stories are important, but apart from Mr. Cracknell and the Mambroses, I don't really care much for the rest. For example, the side story about Naomi Banks. She was introduced as Joanna's, Ransom's daughter's, friend, and the conflict between them was interesting. But Naomi got kind of annoying, and then there was something about her being groomed by older men, and which, by the way, was literally forgotten. And then she straight up disappears for half the book until Joanna finds her in Colchester, and they immediately become best friends again. I just don't care enough about it, and it just seems like filler to me, when we could have gotten more stuff like fleshing out the main characters out. Like, for example, Stella. Now for the plot of the book. London, 1893. When Cora Seaborn's husband dies, she steps into her new life as a widow with as much relief as sadness. Retreating to the countryside with her son, she encounters rumours of the Essex Serpent, a creature of folklore said to have returned to roam the marshes. Cora is enthralled, believing it may be an undiscovered species. Setting out on its trail, she collides with William Ransom, Old Winter's vicar, who thinks the cure for a hysteria lies in faith, while Cora is convinced that science offers the answers. Despite disagreeing on everything, he and Cora find themselves drawn together, changing each other's lives in unexpected ways. The book delves into many important topics, mainly love and friendship, reason and superstition, science and religion, freedom and even poverty and wealth. The love and friendship topic is an especially important part of the story, as the novel is commonly described as being one about friendship and love. But in my honest opinion, I don't think it tackled the topic of friendship as well as it could have. But love is definitely a huge part of it, as we see this in almost all of the characters and in various different forms. And another important topic is the one about women and how they're forced to conform to a societal norms, as we see this especially through the main protagonist, Cora. So, now that's out of the way, what is my opinion on the book? What do I like about it? I loved the book. It was captivating, interesting, and like I said before, Cora was a character I could relate to. The book makes you feel a whole range of different emotions, and apart from that, the style in which it's written was very new for me, and I like the fact that I could expand my vocabulary. The book is also beautifully written in terms of its descriptions of places too. So, why would I recommend it? I would highly recommend it just because of how it's written, and because of the various important topics it tackles. To who would I recommend it? Well, I would recommend this book to anybody who likes Gothic Victorian novels, and to anyone who's planning on watching the upcoming series. And I would also recommend it to people who don't like fast-paced stories and instead prefer slow burners. So yeah, that was my book project on the Essex Serpent. I hope it's good enough, and I hope you enjoyed it. Farewell.